Hello students, how are you? I think all of you are doing fine. So today let us learn one more new lesson. Okay, this lesson is for third semester students. Okay, let us directly go into the lesson without wasting any further more time. Yeah. So on the screen you can see the name of the lesson, Achieving Gender Equality in India. What works and what doesn't. So name of the lesson is Achieving Gender Equality in India. What works and what doesn't, by Smriti Sharma. So this is about the gender equality in our country. What are the steps to be taken to ensure gender equality in India? So this is an essay or a newspaper article that was published some time ago, and the same newspaper article was adopted as our lesson. Okay. Yesterday we have seen the kitchen. It was also about gender equality, and this essay, this is also about gender equality and the state of women in India. So please carefully follow the presentation. It is very easy, and it is the views expressed in the essay are very modern, and you have to follow these views. You have to understand these views and you have to follow these views. If we follow such rules, we can make a great and equal society. In this essay, the author elaborately explains how to achieve gender equality in India. Discrimination against women and girls is pervasive and long-running phenomenon that characterizes Indian society at every level. So, what is pervasive? Pervasive means present in every state, every stage, every aspect of our society, every strata of society. This discrimination against women can be seen, irrespective of rich, poor, or irrespective of caste, class, or region, religion boundaries. So the Indian state, the cross section of Indian state has this discrimination against women. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whatever may be their religion, Telangana, Andhra, UP, MP, whatever may be their region, rich, poor, rich or poor, or any caste. In everywhere, it is all pervasive. What is all pervasive? Ever present discrimination. Every society in India has this ill trait of discriminating against women. Crimes against women have been increasing, in particular brutal crimes such as rapes, dowry deaths, and honor killings. If you see papers, if you follow papers and news, every day you will find such atrocities against women. Some brutal rape, or some dowry death, or an honor killing. It has become a commonplace thing in India. Every day, if we switch on the TV, if we go to news channels, we find these becoming very common things: rapes, dowry deaths, and honor killings. What are honor killings? The family members kill the girls for not obeying the caste rules or family rules, for marrying against the wishes of the family, marries against the wishes of the caste. Intercaste marriages or interreligious marriages generally invite honor killings. To preserve their honor, they kill their girl child. That means the girls do not have the freedom to choose their life partners. And dowry deaths. Even though we have become progressive, the illiteracy rate has increased, yet we demand dowries. The parents of the bride have to give hefty amounts as dowries. If the demands of the family of the husband are not met, then there is every chance of dowry death, the killing the bride in the name of dowry. And rapes. These rapes are a very commonplace thing that has become in media. These trends are disturbing, as a natural prediction would be that with the growth comes education and prosperity and possible decline in adherence to traditional institutions and socially prescribed gender roles that hold women back. So these trends are disturbing, but in the same way, what's happening? The education, the rate of education among women has increased. So they are thinking, they are questioning the system, they are questioning the patriarchal system, they are fighting back against the discriminatory rules or laws that are created by the system, patriarchal system. A culturally ingrained parental preference for sons emanating for the importance as caregivers for parents in old age is linked to proper consequences for daughters. So in Indian society there is a belief that one should have sons. In the Indian society, parents prefer sons to daughters. Sons are considered to be the caregivers, are the people who set fire to the bodies of their parents when they are dead. That gives them attainment, moksha. Or women are treated as burden because the parents have to give hefty amounts of dowry from the childhood itself. The parents of girls are afraid of their marriage, how to marry a girl. Every day they think of dowry. In these circumstances lead them to prefer son to a daughter. The dowry system involving cash or in-kind payment from the bride's family to the groom in time of marriage is another institution that disempowers women. In the same way, dowry system, as we have discussed, This also disempowers women. The parents as the society as a whole discourages women child, girl child, not women child, girl child. They want only boys. They bring dowry to the parents. This often results in dowry related violence against women by their husbands and in laws if the dowry is considered insufficient or is way to demand more payments. In this way, after marriage, girls are harassed in the family, in their in-laws family for extra amount of money. Parental preferences to male child are reflected in increasingly masculine ratios in India. That is why parents are preferring male child, not girl child. That can be seen in the ratio, sex ratios. In 2011, there were 19 girls under the age 6 per 1000 boys. So the disparity between the ratio, if there are 1000 boys, for every 1000 boys there are only 919 girls. Despite sex discrimination being outlawed in India. Throughout the India, sex determination tests are outlawed. They are banned. Doctors cannot do sex determination test and tell whether it is boy or girl growing in the womb of a mother. Despite that, the parents are following illegal methods for sex determination test, and if they find it is a girl child inside the womb of a mother, they are terminating the fetus. According to the National Family and Health Survey of 2005, 37 of married women have been victims of physical or sexual violence perpetuated by their spouse. So, for every 37 married women, every 100 married women, 37 women have been victims of physical violence, sexual violence by their partners, by their spouse, their husbands. So, you can see the state of women in our country by these statistics. There is clearly need for policy initiatives to empower women. So what should we do as a society, and what should government do to empower women? Gender disparities in India persist even against the backdrop of economic growth. India is day by day growing as an economic giant, competing with the Western world and with China. But the disparities of gender are also growing. Even though we are developing economically, we haven't achieved that in our thought process. Still, we are in the Middle Ages if we take the point of gender equality. Current literature provides points from policy changes that have worked so far. One unique policy experiment in village level governance that mandated 1/3 representation for women in positions of local leadership has shown promising results. So one thing is women reservation. This can create impact, and this has created impact in empowering women. At village level, nowadays we see so many women sarpanch, women heads, women presidents, women sarpanch. Though generally it is the husband of the women sarpanch or the woman president who call the shot at the village, who calls the shots. That means who actually holds the power? The husband of the sarpanch or the chairperson actually holds the power there. But anyway, that has given some kind of empowerment to the women. They are at least made to sit on chairs. They are at least made to attend meetings. They are at least made to see the world, the political or administrative world. Evaluations of this affirmative action policy have found that in villages led by women, the preferences of female residents are being represented, and women are more confident in reporting crimes that earlier they may have considered too stigmatizing to bring to attention. So, in the villages led by women, the women folk are more confident nowadays. They believe in the leadership and the problems of women are being solved easily. And women are confident in reporting the crimes against them, the crimes committed against them. When there was only male heads in the villages, women were afraid of complaining of atrocities committed against them. But nowadays, in the villages, we find more female heads, female sarpanchs. Women are coming forward. Their queries are being answered. Female leaders also serve as role models and raise educational and career aspirants for adolescent girls and their parents. And female leaders in the villages act as role models for other girls and other women. They also aspire to be leaders. Behavioral studies find that while in short run there is backlash by men as traditional gender roles are being challenged, the negative stereotype eventually disappears. So basically, in the initial stages, when women come to power, when women take the seat of power, men or male members of the society oppose it vehemently. But in course of time, they get adjusted to it, and eventually they accept the leadership of a woman. So negativity generally dwindles, generally disappears eventually. This underscores the importance of sustained affirmative action as a way to reduce gender bias. So in this way, by giving political or administrative power to the women folk, we can reduce gender bias eventually. At first there may be opposition, but eventually it will disappear. Another policy change aimed at equalizing land inheritance right between sons and daughters has been met with more mixed response. Another one is giving land rights to sons and daughters, equal rights, inheritance, the right over the family land, land inherited from their ancestors. So nowadays, sons and daughters, both of them have equal share in the land. So this is also one kind of empowerment. While on the one hand it led to an increase in educational attainment at age at marriage for daughters, on the other hand it increased spousal conflicting, leading to more domestic violence. Sometimes it is also leading to domestic violence. They are feeling pressure from the in-laws and husbands for claiming the land of the father. Improvements in labor market prospects also have the potential to empower women. This is very crucial point and important point. That is labor market. The labor of women is very important in Indian economy. But there are also in labor market or agricultural labor market, there are salary disparities in salaries. Women are paid less, where men are paid more for the same labor. An influential randomization study found that job recruiter visits the villages to provide information to young women led to positive effect on their labor market participation and enrollment in professional training. So women should take professional training and then they have to go for labor market. There they can show their power of labor and they can earn money for the family and they can get empowered. This also led to an age at marriage, increase in the age of marriage and childbearing, a drop in desired number of children, and an increase of school enrollment of younger girls not exposed to the program. So when the women are empowered, when the women have financial independence, when they start earning, everything falls into place. These are the changes that have happened. The increase in the age of marriage of girl child. Okay, the age has average age of marriage of a girl has increased, and drop in the desired number of children. Now they can take their independent decisions. So now they will stop when they want. If they want one child, they'll stop with it. When if they want two children, they stop with it because they have some kind of power. Increasing school enrollment of younger girls. So when there is opportunity in the industry of technically qualified women, then to cash on that demand, more girls get educated, more girls get trained. In this way, more girls get empowered. Recent initiative on training and recruiting young women from rural areas for factory-based jobs and cities provide economic independence and social autonomy that they were unaccustomed to their parental homes. Getting to parity. For India to maintain its position at global growth leader, more concerted efforts at local and national levels and by the private sector are needed to bring women to parity with men. So we are doing something in field of social and industrial level, but still we have a way to go to achieve parity of women with men. That means we have to take the help of private sector and public sector if you want a global growth and national level growth. While increasing representation of women in the public spheres is important and can potentially be attained through some form of affirmative action, an additional shift is essential for women to be considered as equal with their homes, within their homes and in broader society. So in this way we have to keep making policies. We have to make some efforts, affirmative actions to create a society with women who are empowered within their homes and in broader society. Educating Indian children from an early age about the importance of gender equality could be meaningful start in that direction. And educating children about gender equality. For example, the lesson we are reading. We are educating the young minds about gender equality. Such lessons from a very young age can also help people to change their behavior towards gender and women. Okay, this is our lesson. Thank you.